emoji. Zal. 3, 2, 1, brawl! Jiro!
All right, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started here with some Brawlhalla. We're gonna start it here in just a moment. I'm just waiting on Little Man here real quick, and then we'll go ahead and continue on with our match. In the meantime, in the middle of waiting of everything, let me just get some last minute preparations here, guys, while we're just kind of here doing our little thing here. All right, so let's see here. Jay, what's going on, bro? How are you, man? All right, guys. Looks like I had a few things here not properly. Fix them. Why is this like...
Buddy.
Okay. Alright, see what we got here real quick, guys. Doing good. You got a new monitor? What did you get? You don't have to stare at the TV anymore? Yeah, TV's too much, bro. Honestly, even with me.
Right, Daddy?
That's right. Okay.
Alright, Daddy, you ready?
Yep. 1 second.
On him. I'm using a character I bought.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, I bought him. It took a lot of coins out of my paycheck.
This, I know a lot of stuff. The other one, maybe.
Daddy, I'm gone. Good luck.
Oh, yeah?
Good luck. Play by yourself. He has 2 computers. Look, I'm gone.
You're gone?
Hi.
I'm gonna move this over here so I can see the chat better.
Hi, Daddy.
Yeah, 75 hertz is good, dude. That's well over enough for what you're doing.
Alright, Daddy, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
Alright, so let's go ahead, guys. So we're gonna do... You know, I promised my son some gaming today, guys. We're gonna do some Brawlhalla here for a little bit. And then later on, we're gonna switch on over to something else, and I'll keep you guys updated on that. But for now,
Hi, Daddy.
let's... why do you keep leaving me?
Hi, Daddy. Bye, Daddy.
You keep leaving me.
Bye. Bye.
Hold on, the game's not even on the screen right over here for me. Hold on, give me a second.
Orion.
Why did all my scenes get like jacked up? There we go. Now we got everything all fixed up, guys. Yo, Thomas, what's going on, man? Who got DTA? Woo! All right.
Daddy, I'm picking Petra.
So which characters do I have here? It looks like we have Petra. That's what you picked.
You don't have Petra this round.
Okay, we got Thor, Zero, Euro,
0.
Zul, Nyx. We got Olgrim, Oji. Oh, I think he used to be the good one. I remember. Ada, Queen Nine. Oh, so these are all like the original characters. I remember. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and try. Some of these are new though.
He is, right? Look. Guy, right here.
You want something?
Guy. Picking Zol.
Nah, definitely gonna go with some. Go with her.
Oh, come.
Really?
Wait, actually, for once, I picked a girl.
Yeah.
You don't have any skins right now. Wait, we do?
Yeah.
I don't have any skins. This sucks.
Maybe this is. I don't know. Maybe this is my.
Yeah, you don't have any skins for this. Oh yeah, Daddy!
Hi.
I unlocked some different swords on her. I remember I played her before.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember I played her before and I unlocked some different swords on her.
Petra.
You guys playing GTA and PlayStation? Is that what you guys doing? All right, here we go, guys.
For Daddy, look how crazy she gets.
Petra.
I'm voting for.
I wish I could move this webcam over here, but I can't. I guess I kind of could.
Daddy?
What?
Adventure.
Alright, let's go.
It's a vote.
I'll just do random.
What? Probably gonna do Adventure Time.
Yeah.
Straight for it. Yes!
I won't be able to, Thomas. Won't be able to.
Daddy, we're going against 2 other people.
I just do the GTA on Steam. Alright, what do we got?
2, 1, brawl.
You wanna fight me, Daddy?
Dude, wait, we got AI? Oh, shoot, I forgot the buttons.
I didn't. I know how to play. Ugh.
I got the buttons.
You got a weapon to attack! Ah! No, it's getting harder! Ah! I never met a good at player as you!
Yeah?
I died! Wait, we only got 3 hearts, Daddy. God. God.
Oh.
Daddy! Now, why are you trying to go for me only?
You're not?
I'm going against other people!
Oh!
Bye, Daddy! Ah! Oh! I knocked him out! I got a kill! Oh! You knocked me out again! I only got 1 heart! Like once?
Oh.
Oh, that's my game right now. Daddy! Ah!
Yikes!
Get knocked out of the park, boy! Ah!
You fell for that one. Oh! Oh!
Daddy, you need to die.
No! Never!
Yes!
No!
Knockout.
I can't die. I can't die. I'm dead. I lost.
Lost. See, stop chasing me. Alright, you're messing me up.
0 heart. It's up to you, Daddy, to win.
Gosh. I got this.
It's up to you to win. Petra's dead now. It's about 3 hearts. Look how much damage you've taken.
Dominating.
He got 2, and he got 1. So
No!
Down.
thank you.
That's got me.
Yes. Oh, Thatch is done. Saw that? She went. Ah, knocked him out of the park.
That's it. That's it. Well, now you're getting.
See, if I was her, I would have still lived.
Yeah, she's good. The AI come chase me. Oh!
Get her. Yes.
Dang, I can't see.
I like
Alright,
kills everyone. Defeat Queen.
ready for the AI, really?
Get her, Ember. Get my dad. Win.
No, don't you dare!
No, Ember, do not fall.
Alright, you know what?
Ah. Oh no, Ember. Ember. Yes, Ember, do that. No. Ember, get your weapon. Oh, she got swords. Against swords, Daddy. Hey, she got swords against swords.
What?
Ah, yes!
No!
Yes! Make her die. Make my dad die, Ember. No!
Hey, good. Get out of here.
She's still living.
What?
She got 1 more heart. She had 2 more hearts. She's about to kill you.
She's not.
Kill him, Ember. Wow, you figured out how to throw stuff. Good job.
Whoa!
3 wins.
Ember, you're second. I'm fourth. Oh,
Right, that's crazy.
Jiro.
Super fired, guys. Super fired right now.
Jiro.
You good?
look at my guy when I pick him. Look.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick with her just to practice. But then again, I think
I think a little harder opponent for you, Daddy.
Next. Queen Kai.
I'll go with her again. Screw it, why not? Yeah.
You just
What did I leave?
left. Press A again. Going.
Custom. Local.
Say. Yeah, I'm putting you against Nick. A little
Nick.
tougher opponent for you. Hey, how do I get rid of the
Queen Kai.
computers? Manage party. Move bot.
Yep. That's
Move bot.
the way to do it.
Now it's just me and you.
Me and you, let's go.
Next.
Come on, Daddy. What you gonna do? I'm picking this map.
Go ahead.
Twilight Grove.
All right, showtime, guys. Wow. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Next round, guys.
Ah, no! Frick these guns. You can't grab them when you have your knives in your hand. Oh, sorry. You can. Both got long, what? Yes! I go.
Oh,
What? Come on, Daddy, come over here. Step on that. It won't do anything to you. Trust me.
yeah, I'm sure. That's why it's just shiny, right?
Ah! Hey, leave me alone.
Bouncing all over the place, guys.
No!
There we go. We got it.
Oh, spawn me right where the grenade was, too.
Yeah.
No. You know
Good
what?
guy. Oh.
Yes, please die. Yes.
Dang it.
Ah. I killed you. Woo! Ah! Daddy!
Oh!
You're not looking like what you.
No?
Oh. Exactly. Listen to him. Ah! Oh! Oh no no no! I can't die like this.
Oh!
Ah! No! Oh.
Yeah!
I can't die like this. Oh! No! No! No!
Yes!
Player 2 wins.
Ooh, that was close. Get the thumbs up for this one. Oh boy. Alright, next round, you ready? All these different people. I remember Thatch. I think wait, you can't even pick Thatch?
Nope.
Those are like the OGs of the game. What was him? Oh, so he was too, so they just rotate him.
Yep. Monday, who do you think?
Queen Kai.
I'll just stick with someone I'm just getting used to. Hmm.
Sword.
Oh, Thor, he's good. Alright, I see you. Alright, here we go, guys.
We're both the same.
Yep.
What?
3, 2, 1, brawl.
I have no idea, but you got it coming out, little man. Come here. Come here.
I got a hammer.
Oh, no, you don't.
No!
Wait, where you going?
Stop! No! Bad little queen. You've come to challenge the King of Thunder.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Get out of there. That's right. That's right. Who's your daddy?
Not you!
What? Come here.
No! Hold on, let me see what this guy's moves are. Hold on. Oh, okay. Bye, Daddy. Ugh. I'm teleporting. Ugh. Bye. I know how to teleport now. Bye. Ugh.
What?
Now I need my weapon.
No!
Yes.
You gonna knock me out so easy?
Yep. Yep. Sorry.
No! I tried everything, guys. Nothing worked. I got knocked out of the arena on that one. All right, now you got a thing coming. Come here.
Hey, Daddy.
No. I'm angry. Now you have a thing coming. Let's go. Come on. Come on. I see you. I see you. I'm coming for you.
No, you're not.
Oh, no.
Oh. Ugh. We're both fighting each other at the same moment. Ah! Get alone! Ah!
Oh, no, you don't.
I can't lose another match to you. Daddy, I can't lose another. No! I can't lose another match to you. No! I lost!
Woo!
This is stupid! Queen Knight! Well, I'm picking one of the original characters that first came out.
Orion.
Oh, bring it on.
Kai.
Bring it on.
Well, I'm feeling confident I'm gonna do random. Daddy, hold on, let's go back. I'm feeling so confident against you today. Look,
Yeah, we're finally playing it, guys.
Each
Random.
random.
Oh.
Doing random math.
Oh. Hockey talk there. Yeah, guys, I haven't played these. As you can see, I don't have any of the unlockables. Oh, she's good. He's good.
Purple hair just.
3,
Whatever.
2, 1.
Gee, just see that pro hair.
That's it. Bring it.
That's him.
Big man, are you trying to grab this? No, 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 no.
Yep.
No!
Oh. No. Hey! Hey! How am I already at red? This is stupid. Oh.
Thanks.
I'm back.
Whoa! I tried to knock you down. Come here, buddy.
No.
Come here. Oh, gosh.
A little.
Come here.
No.
Really? Oh! Right now we're on the Xbox. Come here.
I can't knock.
Can't touch this. Can't touch it. Oh, I'm dodging those attacks. Come here, boy. Oh!
No!
Oh!
No!
Look at that, guys. My health is low. I gotta really watch myself.
Yeah.
Okay, because yours about to get low too. Oh, yes, it is.
One hit.
Oh!
Yes! Excuse me. Can I get some?
Thanks. Woo! Knocked me straight out. All right, boy, you have a thing coming out. Come on. Come here. Stay up in the air. Oh! Woo!
Player 2 wins.
What?
We did it, guys. We did it. Thank you for the follow, everybody.
Couldn't shoot.
All right, all right. Holding it down, guys.
Doing this guy.
Oh,
Man, I gotta get the other characters, man. How do we get the other whatever?
Queen
My coins.
Kai.
For that, we have to play real life.
Oh, like arcade or whatever. Oh, like multiplayer. Oh, we can't go online and battle other players. Oh, that would be unfair. Because then we'd be working together.
Shipwreck Falls. Daddy, vote Shipwreck Falls.
That's fine.
Shipwreck Falls. Olgrim.
I think I gotta restart my computer. For some reason, Valorant's not working right now.
3,
Need to
2,
take Queen
1,
Night out.
brawl.
Teamwork makes the dream work. You sure you want this? Oh! That's it, you. Alright, that's it, that's it.
Why? Oh, come on. Daddy!
You're getting way too cocky there, boy. Where you going? Gotta hit me like that in the beginning of the game, embarrassing me. What's the matter with you?
Wait, hold on. Let me see what the special move
No.
is. Oh! Get out of here.
And what? I couldn't do no more jumps.
Oh no, you can't. Oh no, that's impossible. Oh, you got some freaking kung fu techniques on your side. Ah! What? Ah! No, I need my axe. No! Come on. Oh, no!
Oh, you fell for your own bomb. Oh. Oh.
Get out of here. Ah! Ah! No! Yes!
No. No.
You had all. Ah! No! No, I can't lose. I can't lose.
Come here.
No!
Oh.
Player 2 wins.
Oh!
That was close.
Tie.
Yeah, you have to restart the PC for it to install the anti-ID thing. It won't work until you do that. Yeah, that's stupid. Well, I guess it makes sense. I'm not gonna complain. Oh man, what a close battles we got here, man. You're almost kicking my butt, dude.
And as soon as you came in, ah!
Yeah. Woo!
I need Ember. She's the only one who can go against you.
Get
No, you're staying here. Don't
No,
worry.
I know. No, don't start that round quite yet, though, there, guys.
Queen Kai.
Oh, is that a ramen noodle map? I'm done. Oh, I've seen it all. I officially seen it all. Yeah, it says the install don't finish until the anti-cheat is installed. Gotcha. Okay.
Queen Eye versus Queen Eye, Daddy.
Jay, we need a squad, man. If not, screw it, dude. Let's go random turn off voice chat. All right, here we go. Oh, you think you're gonna beat me with my girl?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you don't. Oh, let me show you how you really use her.
Ah! Ah!
Oh.
The only person who can go against Queen Eye is Queen Eye, baby.
That? Woo! That's right. You got it. Come on. Come on. Where you going? Okay. Oh.
Yeah. I'm just gonna let you. I'm being kind today. Oh, how do you do that? Hold on. Oh, like that. Hey! What?
I would be very afraid. What the? Oh no!
Ah, no!
What the?
Oh god, I don't have a weapon! Get out of
Oh
here.
no!
Look out, he's got a nose. Oh, how do you do that? Oh, like that. Daddy! Daddy!
Nope.
No!
What you doing? What you doing? Hey, bear.
Ah, no!
Oh!
I'm back in! You can't get rid of me forever!
Oh, okay. Okay. Not bad there, buddy. Smack me in a booty. What the deuce? All right, that's it, buddy. That's it. You got a thing coming now.
Here comes the earthquake!
Woo!
Player 2 wins.
Look, Queen Nine herself!
Yes. Oh, that's my girl.
Hold on, seven.
Get on that GTA.
Come on, Daddy.
Sure, Thomas, you joining us on the server, bro?
Come on, Daddy.
The sound commands are broken, really? I'll keep an eye on them.
Come on, Daddy.
Oh, Ada. Okay.
Earthquake.
Three,
Hold on.
2,
Don't fight.
1,
Pause it.
Brawl.
Hold on. Yeah.
Really?
Pause it, dude.
Okay, fine.
Alright. Hold on, guys.
Okay.
You
Daddy!
can wait. You don't know how to wait. Hold on.
Ada.
Hold on. Let me see. All right, there we go. All right, let's go. Wait, did you put? All right.
Blue.
Oh man, I gotta change her again.
Those don't change, Daddy.
Boo!
No, there wasn't. It's just that. Did I just press A?
Queen 9.
Well, I was able to change her colors before.
Hey, small Thunder Guard Stadium.
Nah, there's no crossplay.
Tu cosita,
Thomas.
dame tu cosita,
I wish.
ay, dame tu cosita, dame tu cosita,
Hi.
ay, dame tu
Fuck you,
cosita,
okay?
Muerde para aquí, muerde para allá.
dame tu cosita, ay.
That's unfair. You have one more attack than I do.
Yeah, it's not that much of a difference though. We got this.
Brawl.
All right, here we go. You're feisty, aren't you? Oh! 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 Oh!
No!
Too feisty there, buddy. Cool it. You gotta calm it down just a bit.
Daddy!
Trying to grab something? You know I can't let you grab that. Oh, okay. Oh. Oh, trick shot! Got him! You got a little too little desperate there. Nice try.
No! I have to close foot this. It's unfair. Here, I'm sorry.
Okay. Look at you being all fancy, schmancy. Alright, that's you want to be up there in the air? I gotcha. Bounce on this. I want to stay up there. It makes you more fragile.
Blue team wins.
Let's go, Tricks, now. Let's go.
Koji. Queen Kai.
All right, showtime. I haven't removed that command. I know I need to. Guys, as much as I don't want to, I gotta remove that command. That command is causing problems.
This map right here.
Which one? This one?
Apocalypse.
Aw, I choose the wrong one. But don't worry. I will, though, guys. I will very soon.
Left to go, and I only have 5. What?
3, 2, 1, brawl.
Oh,
All right, that's it. That's it. That's it. Come here. Come here. Come here. Oh, going somewhere? See how you gotta trick the enemy.
Daddy! Not the enemy, I'm your son!
You're fired!
Sword style, boy!
Yeah. You really wanted that ramen noodles, huh?
I freaking...
Where you going? Oh. Where you going? Oh! Oh! Oh no! I fell right out. Oh gosh. That guy with the sword, okay. Come here.
Going somewhere. Trying to get something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Alright, that's it.
Yes!
Oh! 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 Oh!
Yes.
Oh!
See, that's how we do it, sword style.
What?
Team wins.
I pick. I always lose.
Hey, you're doing good though, man. You're doing good. Holding it down. Like even Rapunzel thinks you're doing good. All right.
Need a different character. I haven't won once.
It's gonna start costing you moolah. Yeah, when that happens, I'll really take it down, guys. We can't do that. We're not making enough here. All right, guys, we're gonna get to the next round. Let's go.
Mammoth Fortress.
Mammoth Fortress. All right, well, let's get this fortress. Ooh, AI is nice. Petra with Batra.
2,
Nice.
1, brawl.
Shoot, who's who? Wait, what? Which was you? Gosh!
Wait, why are my teams attacking each other?
Yeah, everybody's against each other, not just me. Oh, shoot! Hey, you bozos. I know that's you.
Wow, you knocked both of them out of the way. You're like, I want everyone to get each other in this round. No one's against. What? I'm about to say, how's that me? What? No! No! Yes, I'm back in! No! 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 No!
Dominating.
You took me out. Come on, someone take this girl out. Yes!
No!
You.
You need all three of these guys to help you, huh? Okay.
But soon enough, I'll turn my back on them. I'm mean, Daddy. I'm mean like that. They work for me, and soon enough, I turn my back on them. Look, they're already turning their back on me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work together. Let's take these guys out, okay?
No.
Hey, let's take these guys out, okay?
You guys all look the same. How am I gonna know?
I'm the one with the scythe, Daddy. Okay? That's how you know it's me. I'm the one with the scythe. I didn't mean to hit you. Oh, come on. Hey. But. Ah. No. No. Yes.
Dang, the AI messed me up.
Don't mind. Don't mind. Don't mind. Don't mind. Don't mind. Ah. No. That's trying to take every single weapon from you. Ah. Oh! You didn't see that? Freaking do a combo move on me. Oh! You got me? You got me too? No! Oh, yeah. No. Oh! You can't knock me out that easy. Oh. Oh! No! What? Oh!
Man, you trying to go super try hard on me. Who came out victory?
Oh. But I forgot one thing. Team damage off.
They're gonna grab your wallet and say, "This is all mine." Looking for.
Are you joining?
Yeah, I want to be.
Ada. Queen Kai.
There we go, guys. There we go. We're doing it. We're doing it. Woo!
Daddy, we're doing Apocalypse.
We're doing the what?
Apocalypse.
All right, let's go.
Apocalypse.
Hmm.
I got Sir Roland. Sir Roland's good.
Yeah, I got.
Oh, here we go.
3.
I got good people on my side this time. Come on. Ah. See, we can't hurt each other this time, Daddy. No! Ah! No, my AIs! These AIs! I need you to work your magic. No. No, you took me out, but I hit you. Ah! Yes, come on, AIs. I got you!
Yeah, it's not fair, dude. We're not doing this 3v1.
The only way I can take you out.
I don't like it though.
Ahoy, me hearties!
me out that easy. What?
Dominating.
Come on, let's take out Queen Nai. We need to take him out. Yes.
Shut down.
Yeah, he's such a cheater, right? It's alright, guys. It's alright. If it makes him feel better, I mean, do one round of this.
Yeah, I'm glad we can do one round of this, because I've been losing this whole time. I don't want to play Yumiko. I just want to see you lose for once.
That's okay. I'm a worthy opponent.
Yeah, we're the opponent. You're taking out all my guys? Yes. Take her out. Take her out. Take her out, men. No. Please don't hit my bomb. Hit my bomb.
Red team wins.
Oh boy. Alright, we'll do one more. Alright, let's see what we got here, guys.
Okay, you ready? All the bots are against each other. All of us are against each other in this match.
Alright.
Ada.
Oh, let's meet you.
Yeah, because we were on teams. You were, I was red, you were blue.
Nai.
Brawl Haven. Or we can do your map. Hold on. We're gonna do your map next. Grumpy Temple.
Alright, guys, let's get the round in.
Are you ready for all of us to be against each other?
2, 1.
Let's go.
Brawl.
Need help. I need help, Daddy. Need help. Daddy, can we work? Can we work with each other? Hey, can we work with each other here?
Sure.
And we'll take out these guys, and then we'll go against each other. What did you? Stop, Daddy! I said we're not going against each other. We're going against these guys.
Every man for himself, let's go! Let me show you the ultimate face of my wrath! Yeah!
Ah, no.
We talked about this.
Okay. Let's go against the other guy.
Oh, okay.
Daddy! You knocked me out with my weapon. I didn't mean it.
He did.
Maybe. Ah! Wait, where am I at? Come on. Daddy, I need help. Ooh. Hey, you really think I'm partnered with you right now? What? You took me out? What you? Took me out? Excuse me. I call this unfair. We're all against each other in this part, Daddy. Yeah!
Man, I couldn't. My character was so squishy right now.
Yes, I caught her! Let me let you run, okay? Ah! I took her out! Hey, she's dead, literally. She died.
Wow.
That character's strong.
Good.
Ah, Daddy! I'm running, I'm gone, Daddy. Yep,
Oh!
it's us against her, Daddy, now. Right? We gotta take her out. Daddy, why did you both just hit me? I feel bad because you have to go against her and I'm just up. Because he's up there with you. I killed her. I hate when I'm against you. Oh yeah, that's why. I forgot. Oh my.
Player 2 wins.
That was a close round. That was a close round, guys.
Hey, can you back out real quick?
Custom. Online.
You
Online.
do 2v2s?
Friendly 2v2. Hold on, use different league each. Oh. Point.
Game is full.
Addy!
Online.
Right. What is this?
Addy!
Online.
One.
Training.
Wow.
Local.
Local means we need 4 control.
No? Can just be you.
Oh yeah, well we're the bots.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try a different.
These?
Like the Queen May,
I'm taking.
Queen Nai.
No, I'm doing my guy. I'm purchasing. Wait, you didn't purchase any of these guys. Player Queen I. AC.
Zal.
Being crossplay or something because
No.
I'll do that. Cause it's showing like the Xbox logo.
Are you doing random? Press A,
Random.
select the one.
Seriously? Wow.
3, 2, 1. Brawl.
They were both in the same team.
Oh, what the hell is this?
We're doing water balloon fight. Yay! We win! No, don't let them! Daddy! Don't let them!
Renato!
Oh!
God.
Oh, we did it! Oh, God. Gotta defend! Ah!
Oh, try to!
Yes! 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 No! Oh, come on.
We're both too close to the thing. See, we gotta go back or front. Go back. I'll get front. Here we go. Knock them in. See? See? Here we go.
Oh,
Sure.
her. It doesn't. It doesn't.
Be back. What the hell? There we go. Knock them both in. There we go. Oh, see? Then you. Fuck, I hit that. Oh! Oh! Oh, this guy. Oh, how many balloons? Like, come on.
Oh.
No!
Oh! Oh, Daddy, I don't even know actually what freaking mode I did.
You're knocking them to our own base. I don't know, but I knocked them both in, see?
Five,
What?
4, 3, 2, 1.
Who won?
Blue team
Damn!
wins.
Oh, yeah.
What mode did I do?
Balloon fight or something.
Oh, look, we did Beach Brawl. You want to do bomb?
This game has crossplay?
Daddy, you want to do basketball, witchcraft, dodge bomb, snow brawl, horde, kung foot, brawl, brawl ball, temple climb, bubble tag, capture the flag, or brawl down? Brawl down.
Zol.
Daddy.
Oh, I know that. I want to see something. This game has crossplay, I think. Game is small. Give me 1 second.
Daddy, pick a legend.
That's crazy. Alright, give me 1 second, buddy. Hold
Okay.
on. Just want to check something.
Welcome
We
to
get in the match.
8.
Jeez.
Daddy, you ready?
Alright, how do I see my... What was it? Couch party?
Local.
You're not playing with me though.
I know, look, I ain't got nothing for single player.
Here's what you do.
Wow.
You even got the original guy? You don't have the original guy? Where's the original guy? Even the original guy's locked. What are you?
I thought I would at least got something for playing the beta or something. When this game was in beta, I played it. Give me nothing. They don't care about me. Exit that, then that's pointless.
Okay, you ready? Alright, Daddy, pick your character.
You have to do it through your, see, you got AMD, so I don't know, Jim. You got to do it through your graphics control panel. Yeah, 1 second. Little man, go ahead and play, bot match here real quick. I know, hold on. Alright, guys, I'm going to have him do a quick match here real quick. Yeah, just open up your AMD control panel. And then, once you do that, you're going to want to set it to 75 hertz. Misbits? Have you ever heard of that game? Yeah, this might be a game you might like. It's called Misbits. I'll have to see what that is. Alright, guys. I'll be right back. Hold on. I guess.
Alright, guys. We're gonna be playing online while my dad is gone.
Online. Ada.
So it's Ada, Queen 9, and Jiro.
3, 2, 1, brawl.
This is gonna be hard. Sword. Ah!
Arcade.
Alright, guys, so we're gonna do a tournament. We're gonna play as Zol. We're gonna see who gets to the finals. Probably most likely me. Got Vector, Baraza, Cassidy.
3, 2, 1, brawl.
Ew! Okay. This guy's my new favorite. For now. I killed myself. Try out my axe anyway. I found my new favorite.
Okay, so your monitor has FreeSync on it. Okay, yeah, you'll have to turn FreeSync on from your monitor. But the 75 hertz, you'll have to do it where you adjust the resolution and then the hertz. Wherever the the display option is on your graphics control panel.
Alright, you ready?
Yep. All right, come on. How much time? Cause that's like
Local.
What?
Can you just have one?
Here.
Jeez. Oh, do me a favor. Give me the red. Bye, guys. All right. Yeah.
I'll be bundled.
Yeah. So did you find it, Jim? If not, after this, we can talk on Discord. We'll get it set up for you.
Zal.
I'll stick with my queen. Or you know, here. Oh, you got him.
What's the original character?
Who, him?
Orion.
All right, let's go, guys. Here we go.
Zal.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not really All right, let's go. All right, guys, showtime. Look, everybody gets all these like characters. That's stupid.
3, 2,
Have to do regular matches.
1, brawl.
Even.
That was me. I'm just gonna wait for you. Oh. Okay, wait till you see my
I
candy.
can't see when it gets over here.
Wow! Wants to take out the orc. Wow! She took me and you out to the air.
Yeah.
I didn't die. You did. Oh! I did something too soon.
Seems like the arrow people kind of.
Not fall for that.
Dominating.
Now look at this. Wow. That was me. Wow, look at that! We need to feed Zerial. Literally, she needs to die. Literally! Want to work together to feed Zerial or not? Because I want to defeat. Ugh. Get out of here.
Oh.
Shut down.
I literally just killed both of them.
All right.
You stand near me. Stand in front of me. I want to show you what happens when I
Oh,
axe.
check.
Look, what happens when I axe. Yeah, my guy's 4.
Thank you so much for the follow. And you got FreeSync turned on, but I don't see anything about changing the hertz. You're on an AMD panel, right? I used to have one. I'm pretty sure where like is say like change resolution. Should be something on there. This chick.
Yeah, kill her. Wow, she wants to defend my axe move too. Look at this. Wow, she took me out. Kill her. You better let her kill us. I swear, if she wins. Better not let her win. She's almost dead. Oh, yep. Yes!
You did it, guys. That was close. That's your monitor? Oh, you went with the Acers. Okay, Acers are pretty cool.
Do the same character.
I have one.
Do the same character.
Orion.
I don't know. I still like Queen Eye better. You got a 1920 by 1080, 16 by 9, blah, blah, blah. Brightness, you got 250 nits.
Back. Daddy?
23 inch, so that's good. Hey, you know what? Better than the TV, though.
Good luck. Good luck. Ariel and Sir Roland?
And it's an IPS, so that means you're going to have better picture quality.
Daddy, Zariel and Sir Roland? They're the most OP characters in the game. Guess what?
Right.
We have to face both of them off. You ready to face off the two most OP characters in the game?
Yeah, so, okay, so when you go into your, or is there not something with your... What is this? Yeah, on your AMD settings, like on the whatever the control panel, click display. That's weird. The only other way I think you could do it though is if you go to like your monitor property settings and just do it that way. I don't know where it is on AMD. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, IPS monitors are always good. They cost more though. And what happens is a lot of times, hold on, when you go into like a higher refresh rate, a lot of the monitors drop out of the IPS and go more for the VA. So you'll lose image quality that way, but some, I think now they do up to 144 hertz with IPS, but they cost a little more.
Look, Sir Roland and Zariel again. Look, Zariel, remember her?
Go.
No, she killed all of us last round, remember?
Yeah, it's mine. Mine. Mine.
No, sorry. Yeah, jump in the air, I dare you. Wow, Daddy, you want to take me out? Take out Zariel, come on! Yeah, take her out! Look at her!
I know, I got her.
You think you just grabbed her with the chain?
Oh, shoot.
Knockout.
Bye. We got wrecked. Yo, these bow and arrow people, man, they're annoying. Stop. That aimbot, like, I know that's the AI. Like, oh, gosh.
I didn't mean to.
That's okay. Yeah, I wish we had more characters though, but it's okay. Some of these characters are kind of lame.
Oh! What's boss? Fruit! Really, I'm trying to kill my competition here. Me and you both only got one heart, dude. Ugh. Pound area.
Yeah, okay.
Alright. Daddy! Really? Is that how you want to play? Wow, she hits me all the way from over that. You better kill her. You got 2 hearts still. All of you guys got 1. Don't stand a chance. At least take out 3 rolls.
I'm trying.
I think the orc has a better chance, right? You took out him only.
Oh, need a weapon.
She dodged that like a hawk. Take her out. She dodged that. Oh, she got her fist knife. Look at that. She just climbed up like nothing happened.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Come back.
Oh shoot, I'm doomed. I'm doomed.
Oh, she had 2. Oh, how did she aim up with that?
Oh,
What? Oh, then you're in trouble. You got her bow now. Better take her out.
oh, I'm dead. Annoying. Hate the archers.
She went.
Oh man.
I'm sticking with this guy.
Yeah. Wow, what do you keep doing? Alright, so you got it? Yeah. I was gonna say, you can do it manually through the properties, or whatever control panel should have its settings somewhere.
And you're both on a team against the
Queen
AIs.
Kai.
Alright, let's go.
Best characters, too.
Alright.
Select a legend? Oh, I didn't.
That's how you did it? Okay, yes. That's the easiest way sometimes. Like, I know in the video, it's like right there. It's easy. I don't know. Maybe AMD made it
Wait, Daddy!
a
The reason
little more complex. Oh.
Sword. Next.
Oh. We're supposed.
AMD made it super hard? Yeah, I don't know, man. That's weird, dude.
Fall.
I pick 1 character.
Queen Kai.
Alright, let's go, because it's almost 11 o'clock. Bum 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 bum.
Zal.
I think there's a couple people that I'm lurking in their channels. I think I'm just gonna remove them.
Oh. Daddy, I put the bots on hard.
It's not returning the favor, man.
Daddy, I put the bots on hard.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
3, 2,
I'm taking them out.
1, brawl.
Alright, well, let's do this. We got this. Together.
I think about this.
I need it.
Oh.
Oh, I grabbed the other one. Got it. Alright, let's go. Teamwork. Teamwork.
I need to grab on my chain. That's the good thing.
This will help.
That's the good thing.
Stretch it up.
That's
Oh,
the good thing. I got a chain with this guy. See it? Chain reaction.
No.
What? I just literally did that chain move to him. He blocked it. He blocked it really hard.
Alright, that's it. Get him. Get him. Get him. Get him. Get him.
What? I'm confused as much as.
How you do it? Come on. Get him down, buddy. Oh, little man. Oh, they're after me.
Oh! Ooh. Fine. What?
Little man. Oh, they knocked my weapon out. Oh.
Yeah. Really take a weapon from
we go. Nice job. I'm done for. Oh.
You don't try to take my dad out.
Come on. Oh. How you do it?
Dominating.
Oh, I was gone. I was gone on that one. I'm coming back in. That's it. Showtime. Get off my son. Get the weapon on top.
I need to get these guys from my chain.
I like this weapon. Oh.
You get off my dad. Oh! I tried saving you and it killed me. Yeah, kill that guy.
They do it.
Look at me. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, right. Good job. Oh, man. Oh, you know, we did that match pretty quick. We got time for one more.
Next players.
Oh.
Daddy, look. We got 10 lives, infinite time, 8 players.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, dear gosh. It's about to be a crazy fest, guys.
Guess what? They're all gonna be in hard.
Shoot. Yeah, it means we're gonna have some more Bomberman again this week, guys. I gotta figure out what days, though.
Daddy, look. We have
Queen 9.
5, 6 guys to go against. They're all hard. Look.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Cassidy, she used to be good.
From Brawlhalla.
2, 1, brawl.
Oh god. Daddy, I don't even know who's who. I know I'm the orc. All I know. Oh god.
Too much!
Oh my god. I need some help. I need help. Oh my god. Oh my god, what's happening? Hey, what's happening? Oh yes, I finally get a weapon. Get out of here, kid. Ah! Hey, I have no idea what's happening.
Knockout.
Hey, do you know what's happening in this arena right now?
No idea, dude.
He needs... Oh my...
Oh, I got knocked out.
What is this? I'm the only one who has 10 hearts still, Daddy. Oh, never mind. Who are you, Queen Nai? Yeah, for Queen Nai, you're sure dying a lot. Oh, God. Ah! People are taking...
Not a lot of people, though.
Oh, what just happened? What just happened? Oh, yeah, we need to take out her.
Knockout.
Freaking, that lady with that bow and arrow with the halo in her head.
Yeah.
We need to get her out. Hey, what's happening right now?
There's too much going on. I can't see my character, man.
Shut down. Double knockout. Triple knockout. Dominating.
Too much. Come on.
I don't know about you, some people can handle this.
Not that much left now. We gotta hurry up.
No! You got knocked out by Wu Shang.
Ah.
Dominating.
Dead. See, Dad, that's the problem here. You can't get hit by most of these characters, right? Most of these characters you get hit by, they'll kill you. What? Wait, Nai, you killed me! Really?
Shut down.
That's mean.
Double knockout.
I'm killing you.
Yeah, how many turns did we get?
You get 10. That's why all these guys are coming back.
I was about to say, like, what the heck? Alright, this is too much. Alright, get off of me. Jeez.
Oh, this is funny. Oh, this is funny. They're all going for each other. Oh my god. All you see is guys getting knocked out one by one.
Dominating.
It's too much.
No.
Too crazy.
This is. I need this. Excuse me, I need a weapon.
There's just too much of the same color going on. Like, I don't like that.
What just happened?
Down.
I'm confused. Where am I at? I killed you.
Knockout.
No, you killed 2 people.
I am.
I killed you. Zol killed Queen Na. Yay! Oh god. Daddy, no. What's happening?
Knockout.
Daddy, do you have an idea?
Nope. Run it off.
It's there. What is happening right now?
Knockout.
What's up, Fatto? Oh!
Oh!
Oh! Well, lived.
Dominating.
Oh, yep. I got knocked right out, guys. What's up, Point Zero?
What's happening?
I have no idea.
Hey, would it be possible for someone still to have 10 hearts while playing this?
No, definitely not.
Shut down.
Oh! I killed you.
Wow.
Looks
Yeah,
so
it seems like people fall out a lot easier in this mode, though.
That's why I chose it. Ah! Woo! What is happening right now? Hey, do you have one single clue?
Nope, not one clue at all.
There's so many people getting knocked out. I don't understand. Ah! No! Hey, some people are at 1 heart. If they get knocked
Ah, this guy's getting lucky, though. Like, not.
out. Hey! Hey, some people got 0. Some people aren't coming back now.
All right, good, good.
Oh. Hey!
What's there?
I'm the only one who survived out of that! Of course I was. Right, Daddy? What? Yeah, I still got 3 hearts. Everyone else got 2 and 1.
The Lance thing.
Wait, there's a table! Ugh, I threw a table at you! No, I threw a table at Wu Shan. I threw a piece of wood at you. Daddy, get away! I need this weapon! Oh my... What is happening?
Shut down.
Oh, God. Oh my god! What is happening literally right Hey, there's only 4 people in the arena. You're dead. Die.
Oh, I don't care. I think I did the most damage on a lot of people, though.
I can't. 4. I win! I win!
Player 1
Good
wins.
job. All right, so KOs. Does it say how many people we took out?
6 KOs.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, he was going at it. I saw him. He kept putting everybody in his fists. Yeah, I did 13, and I felt.
You got 13.
But look at the damage done. I did the most damage out of everybody. That means I did the most hits on everybody. Yeah,
No, you didn't.
damage done. 3,724. Mm-hmm. Wow. It defaulted your hertz to 30 and 75 makes everything look so crisp. Yeah. It gets even better, bro. It gets even better. 60 hertz is the normal spot, right? Everybody has a 60 hertz. 75 to 60, you're not gonna really see a humongous difference, but dude, once you go 120 or like 144 hertz, you're gonna really start seeing the difference. Last one.
Zong.
Okay.
Queen Kai.
Picking.
There you go, Project Zero. Get that countdown. Woo, woo, woo.
Daddy, Big Thunder Yard Stadium.
Matter which one?
No. Titans End.
Alright.
Oh God, Daddy. Good luck. Oh, Dad, good luck.
3.
Yeah,
2,
well, everybody got money now, Jane. You know why. What the hell am I? Oh, shoot, I'm in the middle.
So was I. Daddy, good luck. Look, Daddy. I got my weapon. Think a bomb's gonna help you? Oh.
Oh, it moves.
It does. Hey, I'm just gonna wait for the very end. Daddy, get away!
double knockout.
People are starting.
Yeah.
People spawn by you. Get away! Spawn. Oh. Oh yeah, I got it. Hey, me and you still got 10 hearts. Oh, never mind. I got 10 hearts. I haven't died once.
That's not much.
I'm the leader. Wait! I can jump as high as hell. I still got 10 hearts. All y'all got 9. Yeah, I still got 10 hearts. All y'all got 9.
Double knockout. Dominating.
Oh god, get away.
Shut down.
You were saying that much. You're taking out a lot of people. Imagine if you're the only one left and I still got 10 hearts. I'll take you out. Even with
Dominating.
Oh, yeah.
Hey! I said get. How do you expose me to society? Ah!
Wow.
Stay out of the way, Daddy. You're gonna include it in all of this. I'm staying over here by myself. After about 10, all y'all just lost that many hearts. Wow, 4's at 2.
You wanna do something?
I don't even even try to attack me. Oh. Ah. Come on, Daddy, you wanna fight? Ah. Hey. Oh, you came back to the goodbye. Ain't killing me today. I just got 10 hearts. Oh! Hey! Hey! Dad's trying to kill me, guys. You see this?
Domination.
No!
Come on, right next to me. Great. You just come off. How long is it gonna take for people to die?
Shut down.
Okay, come on. Ow!
Woo! Out of here.
Wow, I lost momentum.
No! Not how it's supposed to end. I'm supposed to lose one heart this whole round. Addy! I keep jumping like this all day. I keep jumping like this all. Come on, Daddy. What you doing? Oh! I landed on! Oh, come on! I got 9 hearts. And I could even have an 8. Okay. Because of you, I had a move.
Comfortable up there, man. Just babysitting.
I got swords in my throne. Oh, yeah. Hey! I don't trust you. Need my axe. No.
My
Ugh.
phone is in my way. I can't see.
Woo! Hey, you still got 5 hearts? I'm waiting for you to be the last one. 24.
Fighting it too.
Woo! Kyle, leave me alone.
Got the rocket launcher for real?
Dominating.
Ah! Ah!
Shut down.
Hey, just wait up there. Stay up there, Daddy. Oh. Dude, you just knocked her out. Ugh. Stay up there and I'll stay up here, okay? Wait for them to battle it out. Me and you be the last ones. Actually, go fight. Go fight. Go fight.
Yeah, sure thing.
Oh.
Double knockout.
Well. Knocked you out of the bomb. funny. Oh, no. No.
Dominating.
Hey, come on, come fight. I'm waiting for you. Jump up. Keep jumping up till you get up here, Daddy.
Ah!
Woo!
Dominating.
Hey, I need your help. Really? Wow!
Knockout.
I died!
Triple knockout.
Yeah.
What?
You? Don't act stupid. See that? Exactly the reason. Look at this woman. See? Yeah. I'll try and kill him. Try to kill all of them. That's your dad. Look at this. Daddy!
Double knockout.
Daddy! Hey! Wow! You missed!
Wow.
Ah! Very good. Daddy, you really don't want to die, do you?
Not without a fight.
Yeah, not without a fight, huh?
That's the main me.
Nope, no, I don't.
There!
You want? Ah, no! I almost blew myself with my own bomb. God, he has one more heart, Daddy. There's one more heart. Do you want to kill him? Ah, Daddy! Ah! I got him. Bench, what? Excuse me, sir. I don't think you're supposed to be up here.
No!
I told you you're not supposed to. Hi. What? Oh, no, you didn't. Ugh. He goes all the way over there for you.
Yeah, I don't like the 10 people, 10 rounds. Too much.
It's only 8 people.
Much.
And plus us 10, yeah.
I said 3, yeah, but
Wow! Okay. I also got 5 hearts. Hey, I got him. Stand back, okay? I got him. Hey, stand up there. Stay up there. Stay up there. Stay up there. Ready? I got him. Okay? Let me to Oh, oh, poo.
look like he got you.
I'm a monster. Okay, I need your help. Okay, hold on. I got him. I got him. Look at his mouth right now. He should be mushy. He's mushy right now.
Yeah, but he ain't playing.
Yeah, play that. Punk. I I've gotten better results since last play. Hey, you want to play, huh? I expected you to be my last opponent. Now you won't. Yes. Oh! You always find a way. Ah! Ha! Oh myself. Wow, he danced on me. You really want? I swear, if you kill me within these 4 lives, I'll just go mad. Lives. I'm a cat. Got 9 lives. How? What? Ooh!
Worried.
No! No, no way! I can't! I need a sword! Ah! Weapon. Ugh! Oh god, Oh, I should give you my chain!
Yo!
Wins.
I only did 360 damage this round.
Good job.
1,000!
Right. Right, guys, look at that. Look at that. All right, I'm going to restart my computer here real quick, guys, and then we're going to be right back on. So, guys, I'll be with you guys in just a minute.
Alright, are you ready? Just me and you this time.
I got to restart my computer.